2016 was a transformative year for me. At the time, I was living in St. Louis, a city that had become all too familiar and comfortable, but I was ready for change and ready to break out of my shell and truly discover who I was. I had always struggled with social anxiety, finding it difficult to put myself out there and meet new people, so I turned to technology for help. I started using dating apps like Grindr and Scruff, which allowed me to connect with men in a low-pressure environment. As I swiped through profiles and chatted with potential matches, I found myself becoming more and more comfortable with the idea of meeting someone online. One fateful night, I was scrolling through the dating app Grindr. I came across a message from an average-looking guy, Brian. But as we started chatting, I quickly realized that he was anything but average. He was witty, charming, and able to hold a conversation with ease. I found myself intrigued by him and couldn't help but keep the conversation going. He seemed like a genuinely nice guy, with no red flags or warning signs. After a week of chatting, we decided to meet up in person. I was excited to finally put a face to the name and see if our chemistry was as strong in person as it was over text. I put on my best damn shirt, clean underwear, and hit the road. I was very excited and headed to a local cafe that we had picked out. Brian didn't live in the city like I did, so he was unfamiliar with the area. When we met, I was immediately enamored with this guy. He was cute. He made me laugh. He was who his photograph said he was. Nothing was strange about this guy. He was a cutie pie, and I was digging him. And by the feel of things, I could tell that he was digging me as well. It was a perfect first date, and I was excited to see where this would lead. At one point during the night, we were sharing memes with each other over the table. I show him one of the funniest I have in my photos, and he nonchalantly grabs my phone from me to take a closer look. He started swiping on my phone for a minute, and at this point, I didn't think anything of it because I just assumed he was looking at the other memes I had saved. No big deal. He gave me back my phone, and then proceeded to show me some memes on his phone this time. A man who has a folder of saved images on his phone is a true godsend. Anyway, the night goes on and the cafe is closing, so we decided to leave. As we were walking out together, he asks if I wanted to still hang out. I didn't feel comfortable letting him know where I lived just yet, so we just drove around the city and listening to music and talking. It was again pretty normal. We were just laughing and joking around. At one point in the night, he turns to me at a red light and asks, "Do your roommates know you're on a date right now?" I laughed at this and just said, "No, why? Are you gonna kill me?" I've heard way too many crime stories, so that was my immediate reaction. He lightly just said, "I would use them as an emergency backup if I were you." "You're probably right," I shot back, and we continued with the night. It was nearing midnight, and I had to do laundry the next day, so I mentioned that we should probably head home soon. He offered to drop me off at my house, but I didn't want him to know where I lived just yet, so I asked if he could just drop me off at the train instead. He politely agreed. When I got home that night, I was totally thrilled with how things turned out. He was a total sweetheart, and I was really into him. I opened our conversation to shoot him a text message when I noticed at the bottom of our conversation was a notification that said, "You started sharing your location with Brian today at 9:45 p.m. I thought this was a little odd since I never used the feature, but I thought I maybe did it by accident and turned it off. I sent him a follow-up text message saying that I had a really great time and would really love to meet up with him again, but he didn't respond. I just assumed that he was busy. I woke up the next morning and prepared to do my chores, washing my bed sheets, buying groceries, going to therapy. The grocery store was my last stop, and I was ringing up all of my necessities. Guess who was also in the self-checkout? The guy! Wow, imagine that. He immediately comes over and strikes up a conversation with me. I thought that this was odd as he previously mentioned that he doesn't live in the city, and I isn't very familiar with it, but the conversation was harmless, so I let it slide. A few weeks go by, and the conversations dwindle, and we start talking less and less. I'm used to this happening, I guess, so I just let it happen without pushing for answers. Eventually, we stopped talking altogether. One night, I was home alone sitting down watching cartoons when there's a knock at the door. It was late, so I didn't feel comfortable answering, so I just sat there for a moment, hoping they'd just go away. They knocked again, more urgently this time. I peeked through the peephole and made out 2 figures. My heart immediately dropped as I recognized Brian in a hoodie, tad combo. He had an extremely defined jaw, so I was able to immediately recognize him. I freaked out and called one of my roommates to come home, and that it was urgent. When Andrew, my roommate, came home, he told me that he didn't see anybody near the apartment complex, so I calmed down a bit and explained the situation. It was also during this calming down period that I realized he found out where I lived by the location sharing he turned on while we were at the cafe. I didn't immediately turn it off when I got home, so he had plenty of time to figure out my coordinates, especially if he was watching the map immediately after he dropped me off at the train station. He never showed up again after this particular occurrence, and I never heard from him again either. I also noticed that our conversations disappeared from Grindr when I last checked, so I assume he blocked me. I still have no idea what he was planning to do, but I assume he was going to try to rob me. As a transgender woman, navigating the dating scene can often feel like a daunting task, but I'm determined to live my life with authenticity and honesty, which is why I make sure to openly state my identity on all my dating profiles. Unfortunately, there's one platform, Plenty of Fish, where I have to be a bit more subtle with my self-disclosure, as they have a strict policy against discussing anything related to sex. Instead, I let potential matches know that I'm a passionate advocate for trans rights. One day, I received a message from a guy who lived about an hour away. At first glance, he seems cute in a quirky sort of way, but there was something about him that made me feel a little uneasy. Nevertheless, I decided to give him a chance, because everyone deserves a fair shot, regardless of their appearance. As we got to talking, I found out that he was a smoker. He explained that he was trying to quit, but sometimes found himself reaching for a cigarette when he was feeling stressed or upset. Despite this, our conversation continued to flow smoothly, and before I knew it, he was asking for my number. In the heat of the moment, I gave it to him without much thought, but made sure to let him know that I was getting ready for my evening classes and might not be able to respond promptly. A few minutes went by, and I heard a text notification. "Hi, it's Mike from Plenty of Fish." Now usually, I send standard quick message, "Hi, it's Allie." So, just to be clear, since my profile might be a little vague, I'm a transgender woman. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, so if you're not interested, I completely understand. I've noticed that about 20% of the time, this leads to the guy being rude and not interested in pursuing a conversation with me. In these cases, I usually just block them and move on. The remaining 80% of the time, I receive a mix of reactions. Some guys ask inappropriate questions, others send unsolicited explicit pics, and others simply accept my identity and continue with a casual conversation. There are also times when I receive no response at all. But like I said, I was getting ready to go to class, so I hadn't sent the message yet. A few minutes go by, and I'm about to text him my standard response when I get another text. "Who the hell is Benjamin Davis? Why is he paying your cell phone bill?" Me? Where did you even get that name? Him? Answer the question. Who is he? I texted back, "Well, if you must know, I'm transgender, and that used to be my name. I was about to tell you when you pulled that stunt. Please do us both a favor and lose my number. That's incredibly invasive, and I don't want to talk to you anymore." He responded by texting my address and asked, "Do you still live here? I'm on my way to pay you a visit so we can discuss this face to face." I lied to him and told him, "No, I moved a few months ago, and I'm getting ready to head out like I said. You need to leave me alone. Don't contact me again." He responded instantly, "Since you have something to hide, I'm going to run a full background check on you. You lied to me, and I don't appreciate that." Now, at this point, I was full out panicking. My heart was racing, and I was close to throwing up. My mind was frantically trying to figure out how to respond, so I threatened him back. I'm sending screen caps of this conversation, your POF profile, and your photos to my 2 best friends who work in law enforcement in your town, and my ex-boyfriend, who I'm still on good terms with, who works for the local sheriff's office. Don't text me again." I didn't hear anything else from him for a few weeks. I made sure my doors and windows were locked, and the aforementioned friends and ex would check up on me from time to time. Eventually, it just became one of those weird things that makes you laugh uneasily. It worked, or so I thought. And then, one day, I thought I saw him at the local grocery store. Same dark hair, thick glasses, frames, and just creepy guy staring at me, watching me as I shopped. I texted my ex about it, and as an upswing of things, my ex and I got back together in a casual sort of way, and he stayed the night a few times a month off and on. One night, when I was alone though, I just kept getting this weird feeling and smelling smoke. I lived in a little apartment complex that were 3 separate apartments that shared walls, but no plumbing or air ducts. I don't smoke, and I'm very sensitive to the smell thanks to asthma. The apartment had a wall unit AC, so I turned it off since it was apparently pulling air in from a neighbor's guest who must have been chain smoking, I thought. I had an ACL video due the next morning, so I was up all night practicing and recording the video, signing the same story over and over again until it was almost a dance rather than narration. A couple of times, I had to restart the video because my cat was going nuts. Finally, around 7 a.m., I had the video, finished and sent in, and was ready for bed, so I double-checked all the doors and windows were locked, set an alarm, and went to sleep. I woke up and got ready for school. Was running a bit late and had to hurry out the door, but I noticed something weird, but didn't have the time to stop and register it. Classes went smoothly. I got an A on my ASL video, and I stopped for groceries on my way home from class. As I got home, I saw what had been bugging me. Each apartment had a small garden on each side of the porch. Mine was nothing but gravel and pavers the previous tenant had put in, but it was tidy, except for a pile of cigarette butts that had looked like someone had dumped their car ashtray in my garden. There was no other trash, just that pile, right in front of my bedroom window. I didn't think anything about it at first, and just got a broom and dustpan and swept it up. As I was doing it, my neighbor, an old man, comes out and asks if my boyfriend ever got a hold of me. I ask him what he means. He tells me there was a young man waiting for me on my front porch off and on for a few hours last night. I asked what he looked like. "Dark hair, thick glasses, chain smoking," the old man responded. I texted the on and off again ex. Cops took statements and I gave them the screenshots. I moved out of state a few weeks later for unrelated reasons and have legally changed my name since, with closed records. I don't give guys my number anymore. Ladies and my fellow queer family, use a texting app until you get to know someone, because for like $5, creeps can get everything from your number.